Yeah, greetings people. Data verbalisation. Dr. Martin Glynn, aka Doc Martin. Special shout out goes to Natural&Secret, John Coltrane. Yeah, special request to Rosa Parks, front seat to the bus. Special request to all of the mans, them and women on the road. All of the men and women languishing in jail. All of those people out there that want to get out of this madness. All of those people that want to change. There's hope. There's possibilities. It's called desistance. But right now we need desistance as a social movement. We need you to be part of it. We need you to listen to this. We need you to take it in. We need you, simply just you, and us, and we, the community. Yeah. Desistance as a social movement. How do offenders reform themselves, reconnect to the social structure and stay crime-free? And how does the counter-narrative of those same reformed offenders hold the solution and the key? Will those returning from prison can return back to their families and their home communities, where they can be part of processes and practices exploring mutual benefits and real opportunities? And at the heart of desistance is a very simple idea, namely people can grow, change and transform. In essence, returning offenders can go through a rite of passage, start again and become reborn. You see, this next chapter of the desistance story should be written by reformed offenders themselves, where restrictions blocking their progression should be locked in cupboards and placed on shelves. You see, desistance from crime has been impacting and effective. It has now clearly come of age, influencing policy and practice in the criminal justice system on every level and every state. Desistance now needs to become a social movement similar to both civil and human rights, and the focus on individual journeys, not program outcomes, should be firmly set in its sights. You see, locating itself within the self-narratives of individuals who have moved away from crime, and showing how support and guidance can demonstrate how those individuals can change over time. You see, it's not about what works, but how it works and what is beneficial and mutually effective, because it's time to expose and cast out biased assumptions that are oppressive, defunct and defective. It should focus less on individual deficits, recognizing their individual strengths, talents and gifts, and designing interventions that provide opportunities for them not to stray, drop off or just drift. And it's not about fixing the offender with experimental treatments, generating and sustaining control. It's about developing meaningful relationships with meaningful support as the primary goal. You see, most people we label as offenders spend only a short time in their lives involved in criminality. Because if the cycle of offending isn't broken, the result is stagnation, distress and further liminality. You see, building social capital and improving personal strengths should enable them to become reformed. However, there are structural obstacles in the way that blocks many of them from becoming desistance informed. You see, many studies of offenders over time demonstrates that most engage in criminal behaviours in their youth, and all of them grow out of such things as they age, and that's the evidence and that's the proof. You see, scholars like me must now seek to understand, explain, research how and why individuals are able to desist. And if not, the stories and voices of the reformed offender will remain hidden, left out and surely missed. Be they former prisoners, reformed offenders, they can act as advocates, healers that are wounded. And their experiences can help others avoid their mistakes, part of the solution included, not excluded. Sharing success stories of how they moved away from committing an engagement with their crimes, and these wounded healers could deliver the desistance message of how people can change over time. And they should be at the vanguard of reintegration work where it can have a direct and lasting impact, where their expertise, insights and experiences should be resourced, supported and more importantly, backed. should not be seen as the next passing trend or yet another exclusive and intellectual fad, where the cry, war research is needed, is merely an overused academic cliche that is merely bad. This evolution and wounded healer revolution will be the emergence of desistance as a new social movement, where the voices, counter narratives and lived experiences will lead to enrichment and improvement, which will take criminal justice agencies, academia, communities and society in important new directions, causing scholars and agencies to take on board the recommendations of wounded healer reflections. You see, similar social movements have transformed the fields of mental health, dementia and addiction, where stigmatized groups have collectively organized for their rights and accurate depiction, removing the ownership and control from the ivory tower, the world of probation and prisons, back to the communities where desistance takes place and wounded healers take the active and proactive decisions. And in collaboration and partnership, co-produced by activists, agents of change and grassroots organisation, drawing on convict criminologists themselves, presented through inclusive community dissemination, providing a supportive community and a network of individuals with common and shared experiences, free from control agents' intervention or academia's biased assumptions and restrictive inferences. Yeah, Doc Martin speaking, Natural&Secret playing, John Coltrane blowing, Rosa Parks here in spirit. The community is amongst us right now. Soak it in, listen, take some lessons. These groups will draw attention to the macro political issues involving crime, justice and reintegration, challenge the myths and develop a frame of reference that moves from despair to emancipation. The primary challenge that ex-prisoners face in reintegrating into society is they are hugely stigmatized. Although each person manages stigma differently, it is experienced collectively, where most are victimized. You see, stigmatized groups should be involved in advocacy and speaking out. That is human and self-enhancing, whilst effectiveness by such participation helps to restore self-esteem without any sideways glancing. Wounded healers can give meaning, purpose, social and cultural significance to formerly incarcerated people's lives, motivate, inspire, transform and make a real difference. Traditional research practices will inevitably have to adapt to remain true to the desistance idea, whilst research endeavours will need to become more inclusive and not driven by suspicion and not by fear. It needs to involve wounded healers themselves in gathering data, analysis and collective interpretation, with a maxim that nothing about us without us means inclusive and meaningful participation. And if experts want to convene a conference, the voices of the wounded healer must be profiled and heard and represented in policy discussions so the stories of their lives are not rendered invisible and blurred. There is a need to understand the voices and stories of communities that are impacted by flawed and biased policies, where the inclusion of such voices leads to progress without fear, contradiction or apologies. There should be no processes where there is othering, bigotry, implicit bias and dehumanization that restricts meaningful dialogue, blocks progress, leadership and inhibits good communication. Far from undermining conducting research, criminological teaching, scholarship and theorizing, such developments should breathe new life into the classroom, making research more enterprising, making criminology more relevant, up to date and as an academic area of study and investigation. That is, inclusive social sciences, good social science, should be embraced without any hesitation. So how do offenders reform themselves, reconnect to the social structure and say crime-free? And how does the counter-narrative of those same offenders hold both the solution and the key? Yeah, where those returning from prison can be reincorporated back in their home communities, where everyone is brought together to explore mutual benefits and real opportunities. The focus on individual journeys, not program outcomes, should be firmly set in its sights, and desistance now needs to become a social movement similar to that of civil and human rights. And at the heart of desistance is a very simple idea: people can change and grow and transform, and in essence, offenders can go through a new rite of passage, start again and become reborn. Yeah, ode to Rosa, shout out Natural&Secret, spitting the bars, Dr. Martin Glynn, aka Doc Martin. Shout out to people from the road, people from the ghetto, people from jail, people who are struggling. It's time to come together, pull together, to create a new movement. Ode to Rosa.